Hello, friends. Welcome to Science Talk. I'm your host, Jim Massa. I want to discuss with you something that I have mentioned numerous times before in my previous videos: the dangers of what happens when the permafrost thaws. What organisms, what potential pathogens, be it microbial, microscopic, macroscopic, what potential microbes are going to be released that can cause pandemics among humans. Because if we ever have had any contact with these microbes, it's been 30, 40, 50,000 years, if ever. And even if we did have contact with them long ago, our immune system is probably not up to the task of fighting them off. So this is a major issue. So the thawing permafrost is releasing microorganisms with consequences that are still largely unknown. Right? So the deep frozen Arctic microbes are waking up. This is an op-ed published in Scientific American on November 20, 2020. The authors are Kimberly Miner, Arwen Edwards, Charles Miller. This shows thermokarst in Russia. Thermokarsts are ubiquitous landscape features found in the Arctic. Usually when you fly over them, it looks like a bunch of water-filled craters in the summertime, at least. And basically that's what they are, water-filled craters. But how do they form? So there are several mechanisms. Some of the more common ones include having a pingo, which a pingo is it's a mound, and the mound can be anywhere from a few meters in diameter and height to hundreds of meters in diameter and height. It's a big mound filled with ice. The ice, for whatever reason, melts. It then all collapses down, and then the ground sinks into the crater that has formed, and then it fills in with water. That's one mechanism. So in August 2019, Iceland held a funeral for the Öxarjökull glacier. My apologies for most likely mispronouncing that. The first Icelandic glacier lost to climate change. The community commemorated the event with a plaque in recognition of this irreversible change and the grave impacts it represents. Globally, glacier melt rates have nearly doubled in the last 5 years, with an average loss of 832 millimeters water equivalent in 2015, increasing to 1,243 millimeters water equivalent in 2020. This high rate of loss decreases glacial stores of fresh water, changes the structure of the surrounding ecosystem. And that means there's less available fresh water for organisms that need it for various drinking, breeding, what have you. That's going to adversely impact said organisms. The last 10 years, warming in the Arctic has outpaced projections so rapidly that scientists are now suggesting the poles are warming 4 times faster than the rest of the globe. It used to be said that the polar regions were warming twice as fast as the planet. We're now seeing that's really 3 times as fast, and now it's the first time seeing indications of it being 4 times faster. And that's because in the past, scientists assumed a linear rate of increase. Temperatures will increase linearly, melting will increase linearly, thawing will increase linearly. We now know that that is incorrect. We now know that the rate of increase is exponential, and it's exponentially increasing. Temperature increase is exponential. Melting of the glaciers is increasing exponentially. The permafrost thawing is increasing exponentially, coupled with the positive feedback loops that this all creates, and it's going to keep increasing more and more exponentially. It's becoming a runaway system. This has led to glacier melt and permafrost thaw levels that weren't forecast to happen until 2050 or later. In Siberia and northern Canada, this abrupt thaw has created sunken landforms known as thermokarsts, where the oldest, deepest permafrost exposed to warm air for the first time in hundreds of even thousands of years. It thaws, it slumps, it sinks down, and then it fills in with water. As the global climate continues to warm, many questions remain about the periglacial environment. Among them, as water infiltration increases, will permafrost thaw more rapidly? And if so, what long frozen organisms might wake up? What might emerge. Now, studies have been done in Greenland where it showed that rain that formed during the wintertime, because it's rain, so it's liquid, it's still warmer than the surrounding snow and ice. It actually burrows its way into the ice, melting the ice. So if you now got the liquid water infiltrating the ground, the logical hypothesis would be that that will thaw out the ground, further increasing thawing, further increasing slumping, etc. Permafrost covers 24% of the Earth's land surface, and the soil constituents vary with local geology. For example, is it frozen silt? Is it rocks? Is it pebbles? Is it clay? Is it, that kind of stuff? Is the ground thaw stable, thaw unstable? I did a video segment explaining the different types of permafrost. You may wish to check that out. Arctic lands offer unexplored microbial biodiversity and microbial feedbacks, including the release of carbon to the atmosphere. Yes, as these things thaw out and microbes get to work on the organic matter, methane and CO2 and N2O are produced and put into the atmosphere, which further helps the warming along. The layer may still contain ancient frozen microbes, Pleistocene megafauna, and even buried smallpox victims. In other words, okay, you got the frozen microbes, you might have megafauna in the ground, and even buried smallpox victims. Some of the megafauna might have been infected with smallpox. We thought we eradicated smallpox. If this comes back, out of thawing and becomes active again, we've got problems. As the permafrost thaws with increasing rapidity, scientists' emerging challenge is to discover, identify the microbes, the bacteria, and viruses that may be present. Some of these microbes are already known. For example, methanogenic archaea. It will metabolize soil carbon to release methane. We know methane is a powerful greenhouse gas. Other permafrost microbes, methanotrophs, consume methane. So now the question is, are there more methanogenic bacteria releasing more methane, or are there more methanotrophs consuming more methane? So which will win out? Will there be more methanogenic bacteria putting more methane into the atmosphere than the methanotrophs can consume, where the net overall change is more methane? Or will it be the other way, where there's a net loss of methane? If we are to go with the current data that's been amassed, it would indicate that the methanogens are winning this particular battle, i.e. more methane going into the atmosphere. Others are known to have unpredictable behavior after release. New evidence of genes moving between thawing ecosystem indicates a restructuring at multiple levels. In the Arctic Ocean, planktonic chloroflexi bacteria recently acquired genes used for degrading carbon from land-based actinobacteria species. So in other words, these land-based actinobacteria, they metabolize organic material and release carbon. Well, the genes that give the pathway to do that activity is now being acquired by the chloroflexi. Melt-swollen Arctic rivers carry the sediments from the thawing permafrost to the sea. The genes for processing the permafrost carbon was also transported and taken up by the chloroflexi. So now they are processing the carbon and releasing greenhouse gases. Permafrost thaw in Siberia led to a 2018 anthrax outbreak and the death of 200,000 reindeer along with a child. The spores of Bacillus anthracis may represent an exception to the rather harsh freeze-thaw cycle that typically breaks down bacterial material that are delicate as well as viral pathogens. But there's some bacteria that can withstand such harsh conditions. Their adaptable characteristics have allowed them to remain frozen and viable over centuries, millennia of inactivity. Organisms that co-evolved within now extinct ecosystems from the Cenozoic to the Pleistocene may also emerge and interact with our modern environment in entirely novel ways. Novel ways referring to manners we don't know. And as an example, I read recently where Russian scientists found two worms frozen in the ground. It was like 40,000 years of being frozen. They were thawed out in a laboratory and they came to life. Is an example of a macro uh, organism. A potential example, the emerging orthopox virus species, Alaska pox, that causes skin lesions has appeared and disappeared in Alaska twice in the last 5 years. It is possible that the virus was transmitted through animal-human contact, much like COVID, but this novel virus's origin remained unknown. Microbiomes of the Arctic contain resilient and tenacious cold-adapted microbes. Some species survive as microphiles, which is a type of specialist species highly adapted to prolonged exposure to sub-freezing conditions. These species may be lost with warming. Others survive by being highly adaptable, inhabiting many varied niches. Understanding more about these generalist ecology and genomic diversity offers a window into the microbiome of the, notice they're calling it New Arctic. It's a new Arctic because it's no longer recognizable. No sea ice, thawing landscape, increasing temperatures, melting ice. Yeah, it has changed dramatically. No longer the refrigerator, along with Antarctica, for the planet. These generalist microbes that adapt to diverse conditions are the likely winners as we lose the cryosphere. Cryosphere refers to anything frozen, glaciers, sea ice, permafrost, that kind of stuff. And then there are microbes that are entirely unfamiliar to scientists, which may represent a novel threat. In other words, we don't know. It is clear that the warmer we make the Arctic, the stranger it will get as temperatures at the surface become more extreme and thawing deepens. With the coalescence of microbes reawakening from the deep and surface conditions unprecedented in human history, it is challenging to assess risks accurately without improved Arctic microbial data sets. We should pay attention to both known unknowns, such as antibiotic-resisting bacteria, and unknown unknowns, including the potential risk from the resurrection of ancient and poorly described viral genomes from Arctic ice by synthetic biologists. For all of these reasons, we must come up with guidelines for future Arctic research. As travel through the region increases, the likelihood of pathogen export and import rises as well. The planetary protection guidelines that space agencies follow to prevent interplanetary contamination can provide a framework for how microbial investigations can safely continue. Biosurveillance measures must be put into place to protect communities in the Arctic and beyond. As the Arctic continues to transform, one thing is clear. As climate change warms this microbial repository during the 21st century, the full range of consequences is yet to be told. So, the landscape is changing. Things are warming up. The ground is thawing. We have the potential to release pathogens, microbes, bacteria, viruses, any pathogens that could be deleterious to humans and could create more possible pandemics. And also with a warming planet, pathogens are more readily spread. So something were to come out of this and skips species or gets infects a human, and that person starts traveling with a bunch of human, it could rapidly spread. This is a major concern. This is a major issue. Research needs to get a handle on what organisms are there, start identifying them, start running, do genomic analyses. But this is something you just don't hear of, and it's not reported. And in my view, it is a major concern. So humans have changed things, and now we're starting to see the results, the manifestations of such changes. Thank you for your time. Hello, folks. This is Jim here with Science Talk, asking you to please subscribe to my channel and to inform others of my channel and of the work that I do. Please share to social media platforms that you use. Also, as a reminder, don't forget to click the bell so that you know when I load up more videos. Finally, I ask that you support the work that I do by becoming a patron at patreon.com. Details in the description box below. Thank you for your support.